All right, we're here in the Midwest, and you can see behind me on the trees, the leaves are kind of starting to change, and that tells me that it's coming on topwater time, you know. Water's starting to cool a little bit, the gizzard shads are getting up on the bank, you know. We're here on Table Rock. A lot of fish like to get up there and chase them, you know. I think there's really like 3 key fall topwater baits, you know. There's a lot of topwater baits out there, but I kind of like to keep this simple right here. You know, I like to use a walking style bait, something that's really common, you know. It's like the spro walking haint here. Just something that's gonna have that walk the dog action. You can throw it on schooling fish, you can throw it over cover. Right here on Table Rock, there's a lot of cedar trees under the water that you can't see. It works really great walking it over the top of them. You can walk it in place, you can work it quick, makes a long cast, you know. And then secondly, I think all in all, the new plopper style baits are really getting popular. You know, they've been popular for a few years, but something that you can really just throw ahead of the boat, cover a lot of water with, and it kind of gives it a little bit different profile, definitely than a buzz bait, but definitely than a walking bait, because it's going to go in a straight line. But you've kind of combined the two. You can see here I've got an actual blade on the back of this one, and some of them have plastic tails, and there's different sizes, but a plopping style bait is something that has really caught a lot of fish, you know. And I like to just throw it right down the bank, parallel the bank, hug it tight. It's really good around rock and maybe an isolated target like one lay down or something. A lot of these fish act like they want to chase the bait from the lakeside to the bank. It looks more natural to them or something. If you were straight out off the bank, you know, you'd have to land on the fish's head. But this is a perfect example of here what we're looking for. See how it was nice and gravel? Now we've got some broken rock going in here, a bush or two. And I think when you get those little bit of transitions like that is where the key place is that you have a better chance of getting a bite. You can see right after this, maybe 50 yards or so, then it changes right back to just a little flat spot and everything. And you know, you might generate a bite on that flat spot, but it just seems like a lot of times in these places here where you have a change is where you really want to have your toenails dug in and be ready. You know, last but not least, the buzzbait's been around for years. You know, the buzzbait is something that has generated strikes for many generations. You know, I like to throw this whenever it's more like a little bit colder. You know, as your water, you're starting to think that maybe it's almost getting too cold to throw a top water. That's where a buzzbait really seems to shine, in my opinion. Not that it won't work before that, but as it gets colder, you can throw it in little nooks in the bank. You can throw it over targets. You can throw it in dirt, shallow water. This is something that you can throw right up and land in the middle of nothing in the backs of creeks. And it's not so intrusive like a big plopper style bait or even a walking bait. Doesn't make a loud splash. You know, you can change the profile by putting like a zoom horny toad on here, something that is going to give it more of a shad look, you know. Or you can go finessey, you can change the blade, get a bigger blade and make it a little more noticeable, make a little more noise. Or you can go down to just like this small 1/4 ounce model and just make a little old chirp on the water. But it's a bait that when it is kind of cold and late in the fall, they really have a good tendency not to miss it. They really come up and slurp it good, eat it good. But I like to throw all of these on a 7/6 rod. I don't really vary too much from the rod, other than the fact that I like the buzz bait to be on a little bit more softer rod, more of a medium rather than a medium heavy. And then same way with the plopper style, I like to have it just on a medium or a light medium heavy, you know. And then the walking bait, I like to have it on a little bit faster rod that's got a little more backbone, but it's got a lot of tip to it. But throwing all 3 of them on braid, anything from 30 to 50 pound braid, you can adjust your braid to really get your distance if you want to throw further, or if you're just in the thickest of stuff, you know, you can really bear down and get some really heavy braid. But it casts really good. It takes away any kind of issues between you and the fish as far as just being able to get him out of the cover, set the hook on a long cast. If they're schooling, you can bomb a long cast with the walking bait and still get a hook in them. And it just seems to work really good on topwater baits. Been throwing braid for several years. But those 3 setups right there is something that I just have ready in the fall all the time on any lakes I seem to go to, just because the fact that in the fall, when you start seeing the leaves change, that just means the topwater's coming on, and who doesn't like seeing a topwater explosion?